Hello, everyone. Welcome to my show, Career Startup Podcast, a podcast to celebrate Asian entrepreneurs and bring to limelight interesting people that I meet in my life. This is your host, Priyanka Komala. In our episode today, I have a very interesting and a fascinating guest, a materials design engineer, an intellectual property law advisor, a global strategist, the director of business technology solutions at the US Small Business Administration based out of the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. Welcome to my show, Nagesh.
Thank you, Priyanka. It's wonderful to be here today.
Absolutely. And your work has been pretty fascinating to me because you've revolutionized the way the US Small Business Administration approaches entrepreneurs. And this really helps spur a lot of innovation in the community. Now, before I go into more of your work at SBA, I would love to hear more about you. How do you see yourself?
I see myself as the rebel who did not listen to his mom and dad one bit growing up. That's how I see myself. I get called the ABCD, right? The American Born Confused Desi. And it was funny. Recently, I had a little bit of an epiphany. I was watching a movie, the latest Godzilla movie. I'm a science fiction comic book nerd. During my watching of the movie, it like hit me. It hit me right at the top of my head. I was like, why do I keep on pursuing career paths that would satisfy, the Asian American household, right? The parents. Like, why am I picking like opportunities that like would make my mom and dad go, oh, I'm proud he's doing this. It's, and it hit me. I said, I think I know down the road what I would aspire to be. And I came home and I told my wife, I was like, I think I know down the road the trajectory, where I want to be 10, 15 years from now. And she was like, well, where, what's your dream job? And I said, I would love to be like the CIO or CTO for like a company like Marvel Entertainment or for Yum Brands or Domino's Pizza, something like that. And my wife just kind of chuckled and she said, that's awesome. Yeah, totally. The Indian parents have kind of beaten into our heads, I think, and for good reason, understanding where they came from, that, the path to success was medical doctor. Right. And then if it wasn't medical doctor, PhD engineering professor. And if it wasn't that, then maybe an MBA. And then if not that, then okay, maybe a law degree. All right. It just kind of went down this hierarchy. And I've always said to myself, there's a lot more to life than medicine or law or business. There's a lot of really cool opportunities and projects out there. And I think what's driven me an awful lot was my innate curiosity to explore and learn new things.
That's very amazing to hear from you, Nagesh, because as having Asian parents, you're always siloed into a certain way in which your career needs to shape up.
Yep.
And personally, that's helped me as well because I'm an engineer turned management professional, and now I'm trying to figure out what next I want to do in my life as well. But I really agree with the fact that their foresight is really helpful. So we have a stable career, and then we can start looking at, hey, let me find something that really piques my interest. So how do your parents look at you now? I'm quite sure you've fulfilled their ambitions of being an engineer as well.
Well, they still look at me kind of like with a puzzled eye. My sisters have come out well and they're all successful in their career paths. One's a physician and married to a physician. The other is a research engineer, PhD, married to a research engineer, PhD. And the other one is, a software engineer, married to a software engineer, both in Silicon Valley. They did well. My parents saw that, and that barometer of success has always been like in the Indian family, in the community. As you know, the one thing I think in most Indian families in general, like if you asked for a pair of Nikes, it was like, yeah, maybe. A TV or video game, yeah, maybe. But if it was school or education, yes, absolutely. Here's the money, go do it. Spend all the money you have to do for that education. And I think it was that practical matter that we saw. And part of that is the laborious path that an immigrant entrepreneur or immigrant family has to take to undergo, especially for immigrant families coming from the subcontinent when they came to America, whether India, it was a hard path to make it to America. And so they've got this like formula for success. They said, this is what it takes to be successful, and don't veer off that path because that's the path we did to get here to America to provide you these opportunities. And I think that's been great at a foundational level. And what's important for us as kids growing up in that dual cultural household is to be able to push back and say, yes, that is the foundation. And yes, that's the stable path, but there's a lot more to life than that. And being able to build off that foundation and build, the branches around that ecosystem is what will make it a more fascinating and well-lived life, especially for the family.
And that varied perspective really helps because somebody needs to break the ice and set different benchmarks and prove that you can be equally successful following a different career path as well. And I'm so glad you've done it very well, Nagesh, when you look back.
Oh, I mean, yeah, and it took a lot of risk. It took a lot of risk taking, uh, calculated bets. I went to school at night. I think my parents realized what I was up to. During my first tenure of federal service, for example, from 2004 to 2011, I worked as patent examiner by day. My dad didn't understand why I was doing all that, and then I went to school at night and got my MBA at night. And I remember at the time, my dad was like, "Oh, no, go full time, full time." I applied to some of the full time programs like MIT and Harvard, and I applied to some of the part time programs like University of Maryland, College Park, and Georgetown. And I got a great deal at College Park, Maryland. And my dad was like, "Well, why are you going to that one? There are other great schools." And I go, "Yeah, but one, College Park's a great school, and two, part time. Believe me, Dad, watch." And this was in summer of 2008. Come fall 2008, the recession hits and a lot of people are out of jobs, right? Yeah, it's a good thing you kept your job and you're going to school part, and it's kind of like those calculated risks that you take. You start to win that perseverance and realize that you learn to trust your gut more, and you learn to realize like you can figure things out on your own. And in fact, I think a good problem solver is someone who can go and figure out problems on their own without anyone telling them how to solve it.
Interesting to see how the concept works here in the US, Nagesh. I'm a first generation immigrant. And for us back at home in India, when you're growing up, education is the sole
Yep.
focus. Parents provide you everything. And over here, there's always the dignity of labor where you work part time and go to school at the same time. You do a lot of odd jobs. And it feels like it's all still doable at the end of the day, right? You don't have to just, focus on one thing. You can do a lot of other things successfully at the same time.
Yes, you can, and the most important thing to do is to plan and
Mm-hmm.
execute. And I'm a big fan of multitasking and working on multiple projects. It keeps life interesting. It keeps the brain exercising really well because you're going to get bored with one project at one point, or you're going to get stuck. You're going to get tunnel vision. And so, being able to turn your brain off on one effort and work towards another effort or two helps kind of one enable some cross pollination, but two, just keep your mind fresh and thinking and not allow yourself to continue that tunnel vision forward.
Right. And I think that's a perfect segue to learn more about your work at the US Small Business Administration. You talked about your risk taking ability. You work with a lot of entrepreneurs as part of your career. So, how do you really gauge the startup ideas or the innovative ideas that entrepreneurs bring to you? Because one thing that I was really amazed with was how you have helped fund almost 187 startup accelerator programs, and you've in bringing new small businesses into the city with over 5,000 new businesses. Tell us a little bit more about how this magic happens.
Yeah, so that's in respect to the work I did to help stand up the Growth Accelerator Fund competition, and that was related to some of my previous work I did at SBA. So I've been at the agency for almost 7 years now. I've started off working on issues around the Small Business Innovation Research Program, and then helped co-create and co-develop the Growth Accelerator Fund competition. Now I do IT management. I did about a year and a half ago a career switch just because I needed something different, and I wanted to work on some interesting digital projects for the agency because I think we needed it sorely, and it was a good opportunity and a promotion. But going to your question about the Growth Accelerator Fund competition, for us, that was the notion that there are a lot of cool multi-collaborative organizations out there working in developing their innovation ecosystems, and they just need someone to help validate their idea and give them a little bit of a leg up. I think one of my favorite moments was when I was talking to the accelerator out of Cincinnati, Mortar, and they looked at me and said, Nagesh, for some accelerators, this is a drop in the bucket with the $50,000 prize money. For other accelerators, it's a lifeline. For us and many others, it's a step stool. It's a step stool and a validation. We don't need the money, but having that money helps us be able to take some calculated risks and do some operational plays that we may not have been able to do otherwise. And more importantly, it gives us that step stool capability to step up and say, hey, look, the U.S. federal government thinks we're doing something really cool here. Yeah, take a look at what we're doing because they're willing to take a bet on us. Maybe you should too. And and we refer to it as the seal of the golden eagle, and I think that's really important when you're starting to cultivate public-private partnerships. That everyone who's part of that partnership plays a role. And with these accelerators cultivating the innovation ecosystems across the country, the 187 of them, some succeeded very well, some did not. And to be honest, that's okay. Because the ones that don't succeed, there are lessons to be learned. And the lessons learned are what fuel them to, go back to the grindstone and figure out how to start a new accelerator effort or a new set of innovation projects to help grow the community forward.
Failing fast really helps, and that's a great learning experience when you have innovative ideas, right? Things just don't happen overnight.
No, they don't. And I think that's one of the biggest things people need to remember is that you have to be patient. I've always looked at projects I worked on over a 5 to 7 year horizon, the North Star over the next 5 to 7 years, and we all have to commit to it. And people may not be here throughout the entire journey, and that's okay. But if we all believe that's the vision of where we want to be down the road and where we want to see these efforts down the road, then let's play our role and part in helping make sure it stands up and works out well.
Nagesh, I'm really curious. What inspires you? What keeps you going personally?
Pizza and cherry Coke.
That's it?
It literally, it's just because if it's a cool, fun project, then it gets me to noodle my brain more and work on something fun. That's what motivates me. I'm not.
That's pretty cool. So I have a fun round to play with you. It's called the rapid fire round. Are you ready for it?
Sure.
So I'll give you a word and you tell me the first thing that comes to your mind or maybe the first couple of things. All right?
Okay.
What's your favorite book?
The Power of One.
Work-life integration.
If you're not having fun, it's not worth it.
Entrepreneurship.
It's high highs and low lows when it comes to entrepreneurship. And I see a lot of people who go and talk a good game about entrepreneurship, but they forget that for all the success that's out there, there's a lot of failures too. And it's not an easy road. It's a super rough road. There are times where I see entrepreneurs out there and I'm kind of like, man, because I failed. I did some entrepreneurship stuff where I failed miserably. So I was like, trying to sell it as like this lifestyle. I was like, it's more than a lifestyle. It's you got to be committed to it.
That's very true. And but I think it's worth the reward at the end of the day.
I think entrepreneurship is worth the fight if you've got a good team around you. If you do not have a good team around you, it gets lonely.
3 fun things about you?
I like to cook. I've got a massive action figure collection at my office, including a diorama that shows the Avengers Endgame Infinity War kind of setup and Star Wars Rogue One and A New Hope kind of setup. I think the other thing is that I'm married to a really awesome woman.
That's amazing to hear. It's always nice to have a very supporting partner in your life, and I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, she's really cool, and actually I'm really proud of her because she just started a new job as the director for a co-sharing workspace and art gallery studio.
Wow. Congratulations to her on behalf of all of us.
Thank you.
I'm quite sure she should be listening to this podcast when it's out. So we've come to the last section of our podcast show, Toot the Horn. In one word, how would you describe yourself in your native language for our listeners?
Tenacious.
And why?
Because I'm not a quitter. I like to get the job done and honor my commitments.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Nagesh. That was a very inspiring talk, and we learned a lot from you about entrepreneurship, risk-taking abilities, and breaking the preset notions that you have to be in a certain way in order to be successful in our life. Any parting thoughts to our listeners and about the show?
Key point I want to remind folks is that on behalf of the U.S. Small Business Administration, we're here to help. We're here to help you start, scale up, and grow your small business and startup. I think it's a fabulous resource that's free from your American government. You pay taxpayer dollars, and here's an agency that is designed to exist to help you start, grow, and scale. Take advantage of that and think about the resources you tap into and how you utilize them appropriately and effectively. It's a tool in the toolkit. So just always remember there's a toolkit. use the right tools as you build your future forward.
Well, thank you, Nagesh, for that interesting reminder to our people out there who are interested in pursuing the entrepreneurship path. There are a lot of resources out there and people like Nagesh who are willing to be of help to see you succeed. And again, we look forward to joining you guys in another episode with another fascinating guest. Thank you.